Hello, my name's Amira K Bennison. I'm Professor in the History and Culture of the Maghrib at the University of Cambridge, where I teach a variety of history papers. This is just a short taster of a history lecture looking at the material culture of the Islamic world. The image you can see behind me is the Badia Palace in Marrakesh, in Morocco. This 16th century palace tells us a lot about the self-image and political ideology and trade networks of the Sultan who commissioned it. His name was Ahmad al-Mansur, known as al-Dhahabi, or the Golden One, due to his access to the gold of West Africa and the glamour of his court. His dynasty were the Saadis, who ruled Marrakesh and indeed all of Morocco in the 16th century. They also expanded across the Sahara and captured parts of West Africa. If we think first about self-image, this huge grand space that you can see behind me had two large end pavilions. You can see one in the image, and a central pool and sunken gardens, which you can also see. The design was much more glamorous before the building became a ruin. It was in what we call the Andalusi Maghribi style. It had mosaic tiled dados in a range of different colours, upper panels of carved stucco or plaster, which would probably have been painted. There were arcades, which were supported by thin marble columns with gilded capitals, and on top of everything, green tiled roofs. This was a very grand imperial space. It was used for grand receptions and major religious festivities, particularly festivities that celebrated the power of the dynasty and their descent from the Prophet, namely the Mawlid, or birthday celebrations for the Prophet, at which poems were recited to a large audience, praising the Prophet, his descendants, and ultimately the Saadi sultans themselves. So what was the political ideology underlying this grand palace and Ahmad al-Mansur's reign? Well, the political ideology of this time, simply put, was that we, the Saudis, are better than the Ottomans, and that our palace, the Badia, is better than the grand Ottoman palace in Istanbul, the Topkapi Saray. And this sense of being better was not related to the extent of Saudi domains. Their empire was much smaller than that of the Ottomans, but it was rooted in their sense that they were more legitimate to offer leadership to the Islamic world as Arab descendants of the Prophet, even if they were less politically and militarily powerful than their Ottoman neighbours and indeed their Habsburg neighbours to the north. In many ways, Morocco at this time was a buffer state between these two great empires, the Ottomans and the Habsburgs. But that didn't stop Ahmad al-Mansur and other sultans of the dynasty making a claim to superiority within the Islamic world. Building such a grand palace as this depended, of course, also on trade networks. The Saudis advanced across the Sahara, as I've mentioned, partly to control the trans-Saharan trade and the gold and salt that moved backwards and forwards along those routes. But one of the trade items that was instrumental in the construction of the Badia Palace was actually the Saudi Sultan's development of a sugar industry in Morocco itself. One of the main places of production was Shishawa, which is west of Marrakesh, but there were also other areas in the south which had conditions which were suitable for the development of a sugar industry. This sugar could be sold across the Mediterranean to both Europeans, to Ottomans, and to other trade partners. And the revenue from the sugar was used to buy Carrara marble. And although there's very little Carrara marble left in the ruins of the Badia today, we know from museum collections and from its reuse in other buildings in other places in Morocco that there was a great deal of marble in the palace. That Carrara marble was sometimes carved in Italian or Ottoman Baroque designs, showing again how the Saadi sultans of Morocco were in a cultural conversation with other Mediterranean powers of the time. So, as we can see, this is just a quick glimpse of a palace read with Arabic sources of the period, which gives us just a little glimpse into the world of the Saudi sultans and their political culture. I hope you enjoyed this little taster and that it has whetted your appetite for more.